Hello, and welcome to 4MTV. We are being broadcast by 4MTV and the Walk to Serenity. We are an initiative in North America focused on mental health. The 4M stand for mental health, migration, multilanguage and culture, and mindfulness. And the whole goal is to bring mental health awareness to the globe. So I'm honored to be here today. I am your host, Kara Kihm. I am a licensed psychotherapist, a Reiki master, and I have a private practice blending energy work and psychotherapy. I'm also an author and have written a book, Discovering My Wings, which depicts how my life radically transformed when I started listening to the voice of my intuition. And so I now support women in accessing their own inner wisdom and inner knowing. And I'm very excited for our guest today. Please welcome Heidi Andersen. She is also a licensed psychotherapist. She is a certified body clinician, body trust clinician. She is a yoga teacher and she is an embodiment specialist. She also happens to be an author as well. I love, love, love her book and use it regularly. Reclaiming Beauty. Hold on. It's a little backwards here on the screen. Reclaiming Beauty, that has a wisdom deck that goes with it. And we'll get into what it is and how it supports women. But welcome, Heidi. Thank you so much for being here today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yes. Well, I have been following for you for years. I absolutely love the work that you do. And I think it's important for all women on the planet, people who identify as women, because body image is such a pervasive um, collective concern,
Yes.
and I just really admire the work that you're doing. So I'm curious, can you share with our audience about a body trust specialist? Because I'm really fascinated by this and I love this term.
Yeah. Well, there is an organization named the Center for Body Trust, and
Okay.
it was created by two women in Portland, Oregon, Hillary Canavy and Dana Sturtevant. Hillary is a therapist and Dana is a nutritionist. And
Mm,
they have created a community and an approach that is like radically different than what we have been socialized to understand around relationship with food and body. And
mm,
they are really bringing in like a liberatory, anti-oppressive lens to
mm.
this work. And yeah, their approach is so much aligned with me that I let go of my certified eating disorder professional licensure that I've had for many, many years, because this is feeling so much more aligned. And my intuition, my following my wings around my professional identity landed me with their organization. Yeah.
Wow, that's really beautiful. I got full body chills because I do believe as we go down this path as professionals in this field, I mean, it's almost been 20 years for me. I know it's been 20 years for you, that we do evolve and we find new programs that really resonate and feel much more in alignment with the work that we're doing. And I
Yes,
think, especially with the body image piece, we're really starting to evolve there in our understanding. Don't you think?
definitely. I think a lot of the language and work around it up to a point has been really about it as an individual issue. And the
Mhm,
body trust
mhm.
approach is really bringing in the social context.
Ah,
And yes, yes. And the way
mm,
that we have been socialized, people, um, the people who have the most privilege are thin, white,
yes,
affluent, and young.
yes, yes,
And understanding the way that privilege works and oppression works around differing identities, around people's body size, around their race, around their gender, around their neurodiversity, around their health, um,
mm,
ableism. So it's really bringing in this lens of understanding that there's a social context here that
yes,
impacts our relationship with our ability to feel safely embodied, but also how we're feeling about our bodies through body image.
yes, yes. This
Yes.
is already making me cry. Like, I already feel tears coming because this is a topic that is very, very near and dear to me. And I think this is a very important point, is that it's not this moral shortcoming on our part if we've had issues with body image and eating disorder, disordered eating. There is very much this collective narrative that is part of what has been internalized and given to us. And so I think a lot of times myself, I'll speak for myself. I'm wondering what's wrong with me. Why am I like this? And there is such a larger context here.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Um, yeah. If we think about diet culture,
Yes.
as I like to talk about it as an attachment figure,
Mm,
and there's rules in diet culture about how we're going to get love and belonging,
mm.
and it's thin, white,
Yes.
you know, um,
Yes.
cisgender, all those things. So the diet culture rules about love and belonging, if we're plugged into diet culture as an attachment figure, we're going to be motivated to seek those things. And I think that's where body image comes in, right? Like the more privilege I have, the more I'm going to be able to access love and belonging. And so the body trust perspective and also some of the other work I do is really about how do we unplug from that attachment figure and really
Mm.
find communities and attachment figures of love and belonging that are really based on our authentic self and who we are and what we have to offer, not as what we look like, but more like our essence.
Yes, our essence, that's the word that was coming through for me, our
Yeah.
essence. Ah, I have full body chills because that is not a narrative we have been sold.
No, not at all. And it's very different. And people will have a lot of like pushback to some of these ideas. And it's very natural because we have really been socialized into our beliefs around bodies.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
there's lots of research that's out there now around, a lot of people know now that diets don't work, that
Right.
there's really no evidence-based approach to a person in a higher weight body losing weight long term. Like it's usually 2 to 5 years, and then after that, there's weight gain. So
Mhm.
there's part of the body trust is like, can we trust that when we are having like an attuned relationship with our body and movement and the way we nourish ourselves, that our body's going to land in a place that feels right for it. And it's just that the society isn't really understanding that we're supposed to have diverse bodies.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, and that is what is always so confusing to me. I've posted a lot about this on Instagram. When I have been my thinnest is when I have been my sickest, and it's
Yes.
also when I have been the most praised, and I remember getting
So
COVID.
beautiful.
Yes, I remember getting COVID and I was taken down. I mean, I could not eat. I was just very, very sick and I was emaciated. I was sick and people are going, "You look great."
Yeah.
It's
That's
just
so
like
confusing. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really confusing because here I am really, really sick and I'm getting praised for it. And so these narratives are really toxic. We know that, but confusing and kind of disorienting.
Yeah. And not to mention the problematic thing that everybody thinks they have an entitled right to comment on our bodies at all
Yes,
times.
yes, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
please ask for consent before you comment on someone's body, because yeah, you never know. I know in the times where I've been in the thinnest body, I've been like depressed, or
yes,
something terrible happened and I'm grieving, or I'm like actively weight suppressing, which has
yes.
its own, consequences. And to have that experience and have so much positive feedback, it's such a confusing thing inside.
It
Mhm.
is, and that really speaks to that collective narrative, and so those internalized stories, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah.
And I even made the mistake of telling someone the other day who is a friend, and I meant it in a very different way than she took it, but I was like, "Oh, she's going through a hard time and a divorce," and I was like, "You look great," meaning just like her skin and everything, like she doesn't seem like she's depressed. And she's like, "Oh, thanks. It's the divorce diet." And I was like, "Oh no, that's not even, what I was trying to say at all." But,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we make these missteps and then we learn. And then I
yes,
just think learning about consent around asking permission around commenting on people's appearance is really an important place.
absolutely,
Yes. Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
important for us to be thinking about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And tell me about embodiment. certified. So when you think about embodiment, I want to hear your version and your definition of
Yeah,
that.
great. So I'm not embodiment certified. I've been calling myself an embodiment specialist.
Okay, yes,
Yes.
embodiment specialist. Okay,
Um,
thank you for
so I
that.
really believe that body image is not healed, like body image is not healed by changing the way we think about our bodies.
Mhm, mhm,
Um, I the problem with body image is that we are relying on external reflection in order to assess whether we can access love and belonging or we're good enough.
mm,
And just like you were talking about in your book, Discovering My Wings, like turning into internal awareness.
yes.
I believe that when we build practices, stand like living from an embodied place, it's actually very healing.
Mm,
Body image is really like self-objectification that we are perpetuating on ourselves.
oh,
And I
yes.
think that in order to heal that, we have to start to build a relationship with our body where we get curious about like what are the sensations that we're feeling? What are they telling us about whether or not we're feeling safe and connected in the world?
Mhm,
Um, and
mhm,
and also another piece of this is that embodiment really is about the sensory experience of our bodies in space.
mhm,
That
mhm.
is going to be very organizing and healing versus and that's coming from our truth rather than building, having it be based on the reflection outward in.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's getting back to self and that internal state.
Yes, exactly. And
Mhm,
we have these three near senses. Interoception, which is the ability to track our internal sensations. Proprioception, which is knowing like where we start and stop in space, like knowing where our
mm,
edges are. Someone who's like super clumsy doesn't have good proprioception because they're
mhm,
banging into things. And then vestibular, which is like our orientation to gravity and our balance. And
mhm,
building in these three near senses helps us to have a greater sense of our body and space. And that
mm.
actually is also going to serve improving body image.
Oh, interesting. And is that part of the safe and sound work that you're doing?
It is a little bit. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's so interesting.
So this is why practices like yoga or like lots of movement practices are so supportive for our body image because it's helping us land into the orientation of what's happening in the present moment
Mhm,
versus how are we being experienced from the outside in.
mhm, mhm. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. You know, it's interesting thinking back to high school, well, actually up into through my 30s, I just remember feeling very awkward in my body. It's
Yeah.
almost as if I didn't have a relationship with it because I had been so disconnected from it from so long. I would just be standing somewhere and I was like, "Well, what do I do with my hands? I don't even know what to do." Like I just didn't even know how to stand or relate to my body because it was so I was just so deeply, deeply disconnected from it.
Yes, yes, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, do you want to try a little experiment?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. That would be
So,
fun.
so if you bring your hands together and just kind of press them in towards the center
Mhm.
and kind of feel the push in
Mhm.
and just kind of notice how like the energy goes in, but also out back through your elbows.
Mm.
And maybe
Mhm.
take a couple breaths and then just kind of release that.
Mm.
Notice if anything feels different inside.
Mhm. 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 Well, I have more awareness of my body in this moment.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a real example of like giving ourselves some proprioceptive feedback. It helps us feel our edges. And
Yes.
then we're landing a little bit more in our body. And the more we're landed, the less we're going to be relying on that outside in perspective.
Right, 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 right. Yes, yes. Just, you know what it's making me think of? I mean, I remember this is so crazy. I remember in high school, being on the Atkins diet and living off power bars and Diet Cokes. And, I mean, not to throw people I love under the bus, but they thought that was great and wonderful. And like,
Praised. It's praised. Yep.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. Oh, good. You ate meat and cheese today only. Fabulous. It's just like, do you remember the Atkins diet? Like how
Yeah.
outrageous that was?
Yeah. Yeah.
So ridiculous. But we like as I was thinking about that, I was like, wow, I stopped learning how to communicate with my body because my body did not want meat and cheese,
That's exactly right. Yes.
right?
Yep. Yep. Diet culture is kind of giving us a prescription versus us really attuning to what does my body want? What's going to nourish my body?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and then from there, you really stop learning how to even communicate, and so when we were doing this, that's what came through is, "Oh, I'm actually communicating and relating to my body. I'm
Yes.
pausing, the sacred pause to connect and communicate with it."
Yes. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I love beautiful, beautiful, I love
Yeah.
that, I'm gonna remember that as a
Yes.
little.
Yeah. I call it a push practice because like pushing helps us access those near senses.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
Mhm.
yeah. And so with the work you're doing, you're also now doing Safe and Sound.
Yes. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Share a little bit about that work and how it relates to all of this.
Great. So the Safe and Sound protocol is a non-invasive acoustic intervention that was developed by Dr. Stephen Porges, and he is the man who has brought us the polyvagal theory.
Mm.
And the Safe and Sound protocol is kind of working on the level of sensory processing, our attachment trauma and trauma, in order to start to give the system cues of safety. So
Hmm.
the theory is that when we have attachment trauma or sensory processing issues, our sensory system is actually oriented to defense. It's oriented to threat. And in order for us to start to shift that orientation back to safety, there has to be doses of safety that come into the nervous system. And so this is a filtered music program that has been engineered to bring in some of the cues of safety and really exercise the middle ear muscle. So that's the
Mhm.
muscle that, if you think of a drum, when it gets tighter, it's going to be able to take in higher frequencies. When it's looser, it's going to be taking in the low frequencies. And
Mhm.
the low frequencies are telling our body we're in danger. That's why Jaws is like dun dun.
Oh god,
Yes,
yes,
yes, yes.
yes.
And the human voice is a higher frequency. So the music is actually exercising that middle ear muscle so it starts to be more
Mm.
adaptive towards taking in the cues of safety.
Mhm.
And then as safety comes into the system, what happens is like senses and experiences that maybe have not been like might not be in our consciousness, but the sensory experience of some of our attachment and trauma things will start to kind of come through the system, and then we can move them, help them move through, and then keep landing back into that place that we call safe and connected.
Safe and
Yeah.
connected.
Yes.
Yes. I
And
love that.
yeah, and it fits into body image and our relationship with food, actually, because when we're in safe and connected, that's where embodiment happens. And
Mhm.
that's also where we can ingest and digest food in a way that fully nourishes us.
Absolutely.
So if we're walking around
Absolutely.
outside of that place, right,
Mhm.
you're going to be more likely to be hypervigilant around how people are experiencing your body, but also
Mhm.
like your digestive system is offline.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I work with a gut health nutritionist specialist,
Nice.
and I do somatic work with them because says you cannot digest foods, you cannot process, and you cannot metabolize if you're not in a parasympathetic state. If you're outside
Exactly.
of your
Yeah.
resiliency zone, if your nervous system is fried, your body is not doing what it needs to do to absorb the nutrients.
Yeah, so that's very in alignment with the safe and sound protocol. Yeah, and so it's a bottom up intervention, which means like we don't ever have to have any like distinct memories of working through trauma or anything like that. It's really the nervous system and our autonomic nervous system and the cues that it's moving towards safety that we get to kind of process through. So it's gentle in that way too.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah.
This is such exciting stuff because I really
Yes.
do feel how progressive it is
Yes.
compared to when I was in high school and the people I was seeing for body image and eating disorders. None of this was happening
Yeah.
20, it's more than 20 years ago. None of this was happening. It just feels very progressive. It feels like we're making a lot of progress in this field.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and like anything, I think there's a lot of people still in the field that are attached to the old ways of doing
Yeah.
things. And
Mhm.
I do think it's scary to kind of shift and change. And my
Mhm.
experience, this is just from, I've been working with folks with eating disorders and attachment issues and body image since 2006. And I got to a
Mhm.
place where I didn't feel like the things that I was doing were actually really helping people,
Yep.
and
Yep.
felt very, very like, oh, this doesn't work. I think I want to go be a banker. Like literally, I was
Yes.
like, I
Yes.
want to be a mortgage banker. And then I found the embodied recovery for eating disorders approach, which is a very somatic bottom up
Mhm.
way of working. And then I found the body trust. And so the combination of those two things, I'm really finding very supportive with my own experience of being able to land safely in my body as it is and trust that, but also work
Mhm.
with clients too.
Mhm. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I had a similar experience. I remember I was working on a psychiatric unit and I kept telling everyone, "I think I'm just gonna go work at Earth Fare. I'd
Yeah,
rather just," because nothing I'm doing is helping any of these people. Like, this is an outdated model. The same people are coming back over. I think I'd rather just go chat with people as I check them out at Earth Fair, because it
yes,
does get frustrating when you're in a field and you're like, I want to help people. And this is such an outdated model. It's not actually doing what we want it to be doing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and so I do think there's a lot of new ways of working with these issues and new understanding about them that is going to offer a lot of healing for people that are open to it.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, 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 yes. I love that. I felt like I very much had to do my own work on my own because the models back then just weren't helping me. They weren't working. I wasn't getting what I needed. And so I sort of did a deep dive into myself with all of
mhm,
this. It's probably what got me in grad school to be a therapist, you
yeah,
know?
yes. But you were following that trail, huh?
Yes, following the trail and coming up with what was working for me because you know, we're evolving and we do the best we can with the information that we have as we have it,
Yes.
and now we know that there are new ways that can really support these
Yeah,
concerns.
exactly. Mhm.
Yes. So I really want to talk about reclaiming beauty because you have a journal
Yes.
and the wisdom deck, and they
Yeah.
are both, I don't know why the screen is backwards on these shows. Um, but could you share with our audience about just reclaiming beauty, what that even means to you, the
Mhm.
title of your journal, because I love this. I recommend it to so many people. The
Yeah.
cards are just gorgeous. The exercises, I just want to show one.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're so, oh, I got reclaim.
Yes. Yay. Yeah.
Yay. But can you share about the inspiration for this and what it means to you,
Yeah.
reclaiming beauty?
Yeah. So it was definitely inspired by my work with people with eating disorders
Mhm,
and realizing that the underlying issues with lots of my clients were very similar underlying issues that I could relate to.
mhm,
Um, and also at the time that I wrote that book, I was going through a divorce.
mhm,
And
mhm,
and so it was sort of a way to kind of work through my stuff related to food and body that had kind of came to the surface through the experience of having a divorce. And
mm,
and reclaiming beauty, well, first of all, people were like, why are you calling it reclaiming beauty? Beauty is such a triggering word. And I said, that's exactly why I'm calling it reclaiming beauty. Yeah.
yes, yes,
Yes. And
yes.
yeah, it goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning is like we have a cultural understanding of beauty and
Mhm,
what it's supposed to look like.
mhm,
And I want to really invite people to like disconnect from the diet culture beliefs about beauty and really connect with what does beauty mean to them and how is beauty expressed by who we are and not just by what we look like. And
Mhm.
and some
Mhm.
people might want to reject the word beauty because there are a lot of oppressive standards. Some
Yes.
people might want to take it and sort of redefine it for themselves and
Mhm.
let that be kind of the guiding thing. And for me, it's not just about food and body. It's actually also about like reclaiming love and compassion and celebration
Yes.
about the deepest parts of who we are.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes, yes, yes. I love that. And I wanna read, can I read this, prayer? It's a traditional Navajo prayer that you
yeah,
have in the beginning because
yes.
I love it.
Mhm.
Um, "In beauty may I walk, all day long may I walk, through the returning season may I walk. Beautifully I will possess again, beautiful birds, beautifully joyful birds. On the trails marked with pollen may I walk, with grasshoppers about my feet may I walk, with dew about my feet may I walk, with beauty may I walk, with beauty before me may I walk, with beauty behind me may I walk, with beauty above me may I walk, with beauty around me may I walk. In old age, wandering on a trail of a beauty lively may I walk. In old age, wandering on a trail of beauty living again may I walk. Walk in beauty, walk in beauty. Right? I just love that. And it just puts beauty into such a different context.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for Native American culture, beauty is really about living in harmony with ourselves and the world.
Yes, yes, and nature and aging and these natural processes that we go through. There's just a different understanding of
Yes, yeah,
what beauty means. Yeah,
yes, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That actually, that poem was the inspiration of it all for me. I was at a family weekend at the eating disorder treatment center where I worked, and one of the patients' father was Cherokee. And he came
Mhm,
in and shared that poem, and oh my gosh, I like my life transformed in a moment thinking about
mhm,
what the deep meaning was. And I think
mhm.
this also speaks to part of our disconnection from beauty as the culture that we're in is related to colonialization and racism and the ways that these experiences have kind of ripped to people and robbed them from their culture. And so I also want to name that piece because, with that
Yes,
poem, it's pointing us back to a deeper wound that I think has been perpetuated by eating disorders and body image
absolutely.
challenges. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and thank you for that. Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes, 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 absolutely. So
Mhm.
I love this book. I highly recommend it to everyone, and I love pulling the card, going to the page, and then there are exercises throughout
Yes.
the book.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really meant to be like something that you're in relationship with. That's why I
Yes,
created the pages and yeah, the
yes,
oats.
yes. There
Yeah.
are these blank pages where you can just write and share, and there are prompts. It's a really, really powerful book for anyone who's on a journey
Yeah.
of returning to themselves, returning to their essence and their body and their own inner beauty and what that means to them. Yeah, I just flipped to this one, freedom. Uh, I
Yeah,
love
there's the discovering your wings
it.
card.
It really is. I was like, she has wings of
Yes.
freedom, and oh my gosh, freedom. And then there's a freedom exercise and a little reading. So yeah, I love this book. I've sent it to people for Christmas and holidays, and
Nice.
yeah,
Thank you,
it's
Kara. Thank you for seeing me.
yes. Oh my goodness. I'm just incredibly inspired by all of the work that you're doing. And it's such an important topic. So, share with all of us how we can find you, how we can connect with you.
Yes, great. Well, I have a website, reclaimingbeauty.com, and an
Mhm,
Instagram page at Reclaiming Beauty.
mhm.
I have a practice of therapists in North Carolina, so we're bound by North Carolina as far as who we can work with, but we do have um, groups that are open to people all over the world, and yeah, so that would be a place to kind of find out the offerings that we are doing in alignment with these themes.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today
Pleasure.
with
Thank you so
us.
much for the invitation.
Yes, it's a real gift, and may many people watch and learn and understand the work that you're doing. It's near and dear to my heart, and I just think it's profoundly important for our collective as well.
Thank you so much, Kara. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.